What is up, everybody? Welcome back to our video. Hope y'all are having an amazing day as usual. If you're new, please make sure to like, subscribe, and always comment down below. It really helps out the video. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 reasons not to move into New York City. Top 10 reasons why New York City sucks. But before we get into today's video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and always comment down below. It really helps out the videos. New York City is a mess. As someone who lives 12 miles from New York, I have a very love-hate relationship with the city. It's very hard to live in New York City, especially if you don't have a lot of money, and the government here is so stupid it is insane. But at the same time, it's the richest city in the world and has so much to do, so many opportunities, it balances out. But there are many reasons why you might not want to live in New York City, so let's get right into it. Number 10, the weather. New York has freezing winters with the occasional snowstorm and really humid, smelly summers. The fall and spring are very pleasant in New York, but the summer and winter really suck. There's a ton of garbage, and that garbage smells really bad when it's hot. And then there's a ton of concrete, which attracts heat in the city. Not too long ago, there was a ton of flooding in New York City. There was just consistent rain for like a couple weeks straight back in the fall of 2023. And New York City is built on water. That water had nowhere to go, so the city flooded for a little while, which is really rare. Number 9, the public transportation. The MTA is the main public transit system in New York City and has some problems. While the MTA is reliable and on time most of the time, the subway is filthy and can be dangerous for women traveling alone. Many of the stations are falling apart, and many homeless and mentally ill stay down in the subway system. The subway and bus fares have also increased from $2.75 to $2.90. While the subway is fast and convenient, the buses are safer and much cleaner. However, they get stuck in New York City traffic, so they're better for close trips. Penn Station and Port Authority bus terminal are nightmares, while Grand Central Station is beautiful. The Long Island Railroad and Metro North are reliable. The subway system is the main problem with New York City transit. However, the news blows it way out of proportion, and for the most part, the subway is pretty reliable. Number 8, traffic. New York City has the worst traffic in the country. Sure, LA, Chicago, Boston, DC, and Atlanta have horrible traffic in their own rights, but New York City takes the cake. The Brooklyn-Queens Expressway and the Cross Bronx are always in a constant state of gridlock, and the streets in Midtown Manhattan can get so busy it can take up to an hour to get out of Midtown. Lack of parking and narrow streets can also cause problems for delivery and bus drivers. The problem is there's too many personal vehicles, horrible cab drivers, people on e-bikes that don't stop for anyone, and hundreds of pedestrians. Driving in New York City can be a pain in the ass. Number 7, rude people. New Yorkers certainly aren't the friendliest crowd. You won't find any southern hospitality here. Most New Yorkers are extremely fast-paced and career-driven. If you hold them up for even a few seconds, you're wasting their time. It takes a lot to impress a New Yorker, and most of them can come off as aggressive. There are many good people in New York City, and New Yorkers are pretty cool once you get to know them. But the whole small talk and hospitality is really non-existent in New York City. Also, most New Yorkers think they're better than everyone else, and no New Yorker will really go out of their way to help someone else. Number 6, crime. The media has made New York seem like it's the most dangerous place on earth, but really it's not that bad. New York crime is a little bit different than most places. It's not your typical drive-by shootings or gang-related crime. Most of New York's crime includes robberies or a mentally ill person attacking you. And of course, there's always a hate crime in New York City. For the most part, anywhere in New York City is safe. As long as you don't make eye contact with mentally ill and stay out of the projects at night, you should be good, even in the worst parts of New York City. Number 5, owning a car. Driving in New York City is already pretty hard, and on top of that, owning a car is also hard. Finding a parking spot on the street is basically impossible, and the parking garages are extremely expensive. Now, if you live in the outer boroughs in a more residential neighborhood, parking is easier, but if you want to buy a car and live in Manhattan, forget about it. In addition to the expensive garages and limited parking, there are tolls everywhere, and congestion pricing is going into effect. There are also very few gas stations, and owning a car in the Big Apple is very difficult. Drivers also suck, and people are just everywhere, so you really have to know how to drive if you're going to do it in New York City. Number 4, apartments. Everyone knows how tiny and expensive New York City apartments are. Most New York City landlords should be put in jail for some of the conditions of these apartments. In Manhattan, you'll be living in a one-bedroom box that you'll be paying $5,000 a month for in rent. And many of the apartments in New York City have huge flights of stairs and no elevators. So you'll be carrying up your groceries and your laundry if you don't have a washer and dryer. Landlords are neglectful and supers are non-existent. Many of the apartments have rodent problems and are way too small. And if you can't afford a typical apartment in New York City, you can always live in the projects, which come with their own problems. There's also a serious lack of affordable housing in New York City and dozens, actually hundreds of illegal apartments. Number 3, homeless/migrants. New York City has a terrible homeless problem that has only gotten worse since the pandemic, and the city does very little to address the problem. Most of the shelters are privately owned and are in deplorable conditions. Mold, bad food, drug use, and fights happen every day in these shelters that are unsafe for people. And more recently, migrants from South America have been sent to New York City on buses. The problem is New York City has no room for these migrants, but many point out that the migrants are being treated better than the homeless in New York. The city needs to get their priorities straight and get these migrants the help they need and help the homeless as well. I say the best thing to do with these migrants is build communities in the middle of nowhere, Texas, build schools and have migrant communities, not sending these people to the most crowded and expensive city in the country. Number 2, it's dirty. New York City is not the cleanest city in the country. Garbage is everywhere and so is litter. Trash cans are always piling over or full, and apartment buildings will pile up garbage bags on the sidewalk. New York City has a rat problem. You'll find them in the subways and sewers of New York City, and sometimes in your apartment. The best thing to do is seal all cracks in your home and put your garbage in cans and keep them outside and away from your home. And number 1, the cost of living. New York City is one of the most expensive cities in the world. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment can run you up to $4,000 a month and way more if you want a luxury rental. New York City also has very high taxes. If you want to go for a night out in the Big Apple, drinks are going to run you about $20, and food at restaurants is very expensive as well. The government likes to tax, toll, and fine people wherever they can. It's not as bad if you live in the outer boroughs, but nowhere in New York City is affordable, and there's always a shortage of affordable housing, while these luxury apartments are being built everywhere, and they're usually empty because no one can afford them. So that is going to be it for this video. This is the top 10 reasons why New York City sucks. Now, I don't think New York City is a terrible city, although I personally would never live there, and I can't blame anyone for leaving right now because the city is a dumpster fire. New York City is crazy, and as much as I love it, there are a ton of reasons why you wouldn't want to live there. Now, that's going to be for today's video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and God bless to all you guys.